Hey guys, what is up? This is Matthew Davis Me once again. Welcome back to another video game review. This time is going to be on Doom: The Dark Ages. Now this is a prequel to both the 2016 Doom game and the sequel Doom Eternal, as this game is in a much more medieval setting where you play as the Doomslayer once again, where you explore a massive world full of demons once again, and you get brand new weapons, new areas to explore throughout the game, and of course secrets to find. But of course there is one major goal, and that's making it to the end while you fight your way through a horde of demons that are going to be coming your way. Now, I am a humongous fan of Doom, whether it be the original classic games or both the modern games, Doom and Doom Eternal. I absolutely loved the Doom reboot. It's what got me into the franchise, as I got a big poster back there and a poster of the original game over where my fireplace is. And I did not think it would get any better than this, but it did with Doom Eternal. It was much bigger, it had more weapons, and surprisingly had a much more deeper story, believe it or not. So when I heard they were coming back with another game, I was all on board, as I enjoy every single one of these games, and that includes this one as well, as I had a hell of a fun time with this one. Now, I will start off by saying I don't think it's quite as good as Doom 2016 or Doom Eternal for various reasons that I'm obviously going to explain, but I'm going to tell you right at the bat, I did not want to rush this game. Despite the fact that I'm going to be going out of town this week, I just did not want to rush this game. I wanted to 100% everything. I wanted to see every single area. I wanted to get all the secrets. I wanted to get all the collectibles, and that's exactly what I did. I 100%ed every single level. I upgraded all my weapons. I completed all the challenges, including the master ones. I even got all of the achievements on Xbox, as I got to play the game on Game Pass. Now, I should start by saying that the game had issues at launch, specifically for PC players, with a lot of issues involving the requirements that you needed, causing people to get really frustrated. And it's not just the PC version, but also the console version, specifically with the physical version, just due to the fact that it didn't really count as physical, as it only had a little bit of data on the disc, while you had to update the entire game with 85 gigabytes, as basically it's still digital, just with a disc. But I'm not really gonna get into all the controversy. I know it caused people to want to cancel their pre-orders, but the game itself, I'm just here to talk about the game itself and how I feel about it. I'm just gonna ignore all those issues. Let me just talk about the game itself. And it is a hell of a lot of fun. I had so much fun playing this game, and I was really surprised with how much I enjoyed most of the new features. For one thing, the biggest thing about this game is the shield. It's a new mechanic that I don't really feel like is fully needed, as it's mostly used so you can parry specific objects, green objects to be exact, in order to stun enemies or do massive amounts of damage to them when they fly back. But it's a nice little gimmick that I thought worked pretty well. You can also use it to bash into other enemies, so it's definitely not a necessary feature, but a really nice one. And you can upgrade your shield to give it like other types of weapons, like throwing your shield Captain America style and then pulling it right back, you know, like God of War style, God of War mixed with Captain America, if you know what I mean. And it was something that I had quite a bit of fun with. Now, of course, the biggest thing other than the shield is the other weapons that you get throughout the game. There is a major amount of new weapons that you're going to be using a lot, and there's always a really unique new one that will suit your playstyle and the way that you want to play if you want to use that weapon throughout. Though with the amount of challenges that the game has, it really encourages you to want to use as much of those weapons as possible, rather than just focusing on that one weapon you want to use. I mean, you can do that, but then you wouldn't be 100%ing everything, now would you? But hey, it's definitely not going to be for everyone in terms of 100%ing, because another big thing about this game is that it is much bigger in terms of level design and the amount of, area that there is to explore. And for some people, that will definitely be an annoyance, as they'll definitely prefer the much more linear sessions rather than the open sessions. But I appreciate it for making it feel like there's more to do in trying to get all the secrets and look for more collectibles and trying to fill up that map to the brim before reaching the end. And of course, nothing's missable. You can always replay specific levels. And when it comes to new types of levels, there is one involving a dragon that does make an appearance multiple times. I don't really feel like it was necessary, as it kind of slows the game down a bit. In fact, that's one thing about the game that I will admit. I do feel like it's a little bit slower compared to the previous entries, just due to the fact that it's focusing a little bit more on storyline than the 2016 game had. But the Doom Eternal definitely focused a lot more on story, but still had some quite good pacing to it, and it encouraged me to want to go and replay that game again. And when it comes to the cutscenes, they are much more cinematic. So I definitely like how it's trying to tell a good story while also having great gameplay, because the 2016 game didn't really have that. But I really like how it was really trying to, dig deeper into what was going on into the world. And in terms of these characters, even though I don't know any of their names, the only one I really know is the Doomslayer and the bosses that you fight. And that's another thing too. The bosses, they're some of the best I ever fought in the series, and that's one thing that I will say the game definitely does better than Doom and Doom Eternal, is the bosses. The final boss in particular, I think, is by far the best one. I had so much fun learning their mechanics and using the right weapons to get the job done. And of course, when it comes to the challenge of the game, of course, you can put it on the highest difficulty and make it hard for yourself. But the game actually allows you to modify your experience in the settings with the amount of difficulty options, whether you want to do more damage to yourself or you want to do less damage to yourself, you want to do more damage to the enemies or less damage to the enemies, or if you want to make parrying harder or easier for you. It just all depends how you want to suit your play style. And this time around, you don't need to play on the highest difficulty to get all the achievements. At least when I played on Xbox. I'm not sure if it's the same for PlayStation or PC, but it's nice to have. Despite the fact that I had a rough launch, I never ran into any major problems or crashes. I did run into a few bugs, specifically one when I got stuck in a wall, and that just really irritated me to no end. But I didn't lose anything when I had to restart. As the checkpoint system, as always, is very fair, and it's definitely feels nice to know that every time you get a collectible, it'll automatically save, so you won't have to worry about restarting. Now, in terms of upgrading your weapons, it is far more different this time around, as there is in-game currency that you will collect throughout. And it's not something you can farm. You need to get all the coins in order to 100% each level, which I had fun finding, and it was really satisfying upgrading your weapons, because the more you upgrade your weapons, the more better and more useful they'll get, and they'll have their own additional little features as well to help out throughout your mission, making them worth, swapping out every once in a while, especially if you're going to be going up against the challenges. And like I said before, there's mastery challenges. The challenges themselves, they're pretty simple. Just try to defeat all this amount of enemies before the level ends or whatnot. But it's something that I had fun doing, and they aren't really too challenging, to be honest. They felt a little bit less like challenges and more like, I don't really know how to put it, but more like, optional, side missions or whatnot. But yeah. Anyways, let me talk about these new weapons, because they are badass, okay? Probably my favorite is the Ravager, that little thing that has that spread area or whatever that can shoot hordes of enemies and they just throw them in their face. It was really cool to see, as well as the Cycler, which is a little bit similar, just in laser form. And then there's the Flail, which is the ball and chain that was seen in the trailers. And I really like how the game inspires you to use more of your melee attacks rather than just your run and gun tactics. And it's something that I feel like, makes it more endearing, knowing the fact that it's not always about running and gunning. Now, in terms of the things that I will admit that I did miss, was the fact that you can't double jump like in the previous two games, but it was something that I kind of got used to. As well as the glory kills. They're kind of replaced with this other type of kill that I forgot what it was called, but it's like a glory kill, but it's not as brutal or intense. So that was kind of disappointing to see, but these new gimmicks, I feel like work very well enough for me to, not really pay attention to most of that and just have fun with the game. Because these new features most of them I feel like work really well, and it makes me really appreciate how it's not trying to make it feel the same as the previous entries. And there are new types of enemies in the game, and like I said before, a much more deeper storyline that I didn't feel like was memorable, but was at least decent. You can also upgrade your health and armor, just like the previous entries. But what's really great about this is the fact that you can upgrade them by killing specific mini bosses throughout the game that you'll also have to use to 100%, the levels, of course. But yeah, I just felt like it was so satisfying being able to beat that mini boss in order to get that one upgrade, whether it be for your health, for your armor, for your ammo. It just felt so satisfying. Now, one thing that this game does not have is multiplayer. There's probably going to be one eventually, and there is going to be DLC, but at $70, it is a little bit lengthier than the campaigns for the previous entries. Actually, I'm not entirely sure because it took me like 20 hours to get all the, collectibles and whatnot. But in terms of the main story, it takes like 8 hours to beat. And for $70, that's not really a whole lot compared to games like Clair Obscur Expedition 33, which cost $50 and takes more than 30 hours to beat if you want to do the side quests. Yeah, that's still my pick for Game of the Year so far. But nonetheless, I can generally say that while this game definitely doesn't quite hold a candle to those last two entries, it does do things a little bit better, but also a little bit worse. There are some new gimmicks here that I think work really well, but with some features that were taking out in terms of the double jump and the chainsaw, it does kind of make me miss those a little bit, but at the same time, I was still having a blast just running and gunning, though the fact that it encourages you to use your shield more often, it's something that I really appreciated. I really appreciate the new stuff they did manage to add to separate apart from the previous games, not just due to the fact that it's a prequel, but also adding in new mechanics to really separate apart. In the end, guys, I can still say without a doubt, I had a hell of a good time with this one. It's still as brutal as ever. It's still as gruesome. It has some great new weapons that I had a lot of fun using. And while there are new different types of levels that I don't really feel like work that much, it just slows down the game just a little bit. That's basically my biggest problem, is that it just feels a little bit more slower than the previous entries. And in terms of the soundtrack too, there wasn't really a song that I found to be particularly memorable, because I still got the soundtrack for that game still stuck in my head, because that just fit the game perfectly. In terms of the soundtrack in here, it definitely feels a little bit childish, a little bit more wimpier. Though it's not bad, it's fine enough. It just didn't really feel as powerful as in the previous entries. But nonetheless, I still had a great time. It still looks great in terms of graphical perspective, running nicely at 60 FPS. Like I said before, I didn't run into any major problems or anything like that. I just had myself a hell of a great time. And despite these problems I do have, it didn't stop me for just having some fun. I love going back to games like this in terms of first-person shooters that aren't Call of Duty or aren't live service and that are just single-player fun goodness where you can keep your weapons instead of just two-weapon swap. It just made me, absolutely love most of my time spent with the game. And I can say it's definitely worth another trip to hell. There will be some people who will actually say this might be their favorite Doom game. As for me, it still might be Eternal, though that original Doom game definitely is iconic, but it just really depends how you feel. Some people think it's worse than the previous entries, some people think it's better. I, for one, think it's a great game and definitely worth your time. Though, if you think $70 is still too much, just be happy that it's not $80 because it's going to be sad when we get into that era. But hey, you can probably wait for a price drop. Or hey, it's on Game Pass. If you have Game Pass, it's definitely a must play. So yeah, it just really depends. I, for one, had myself a really fun time with it, and I do recommend giving it a shot. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and maybe subscribe for more. You can also follow me on Twitter or Instagram or maybe Blue Sky. Give me a follow if you can. Links are in the description. And yeah, see you guys later. Word out.
Thank you.